Fall fishing is coming up and I can't wait. I know a lot of people have been, grinding it out in the summertime. We've had some slow days, we've had some good days in the summer, but in the fall when things start getting good, and we're going to talk about those good conditions and the tougher conditions in fall, on those really good days, man, it's pretty good. So I'm looking really forward to it. I got quite a few different setups to walk y'all through on what I'll be throwing, things that are going to be turning on even better. Also some conditions, when it's tough, because you're going to still have a few tough days each month of fishing. So we'll get into that after I show y'all my favorite lures for inshore fishing. Speckled trout, redfish. I don't target flounder, anymore, but I used to in the marsh as a kayak fisherman. If you want to target flounder, go in your creeks in the marsh in the fall. So first up on the list, something that has been tough in the summer, been getting a lot of strikes, not so many eats, and that's going to be your topwater lures. They are going to be turning on even better when we get into those good conditions. I throw the inline hooks for a few reasons. One, you catch less grass in the grass flats. Number two, I don't like treble hooks anymore. They hook everything. They get hung in the net. They catch any little piece of grass that's out there. And also the inline hooks are safer for the fish that you have to release. Those treble hooks, when you're catching small fish that you have to release, they're pretty hard on those fish, and I know a lot of them don't make it. And I don't mind filling a cooler, but I do mind throwing away fish that are gonna die. So topwater is gonna be, you're gonna start getting more eats on it instead of just strikes. I learned along the way that if they want to eat it, they will eat it. So if you're getting short strikes on the topwater, then go down to your weedless gold spoon. 1/4 ounce is my favorite. This is a flat water baits, and so is the topwater. I'll make a list for y'all in the video description, for each of these things. Flat water baits puts a rattle. And I add a split ring to it, and then I add a ball bearing swivel, and then from there I put about a 12-inch mono leader. I use 30 pound, you can use 20 if you want also, and then I put another ball bearing swivel, and that helps with line twist. I mostly still burn these in fast and steady. If I'm getting a follow, then I'll work it. I'll start jerking it and working it. I see a redfish wake, but he's not committing, he's not eating it, he's just following it. Then I'll make that spoon do something a little different. Another great choice is a Redfish Magic spinnerbait. It's real similar to the spoon because it puts off vibration. You can run it across shallow grass, as long as you got a little bit of water on top of that grass. The spinnerbaits don't throw as far, so if you want to get a further cast, the spoons cast further, but those spinnerbaits work pretty good too, especially if you're drifting. When you're drifting, you're basically kind of sneaking up on the fish without making any noise, and you can catch fish close to the boat or the kayak. So the spinnerbait, same thing. You just reel it in fast and steady. You'll feel the rod tip vibrating. That means it's spinning. It's doing what it's supposed to do. And then, of course, your paddle tails. They're a good lure year-round. And these are also a flat water baits paddle tail. Your darker colors with chartreuse tail, like this Morning Glory, they're more for a little bit stained water. And when you got real clean water, throw your pearl white, your silvers, your natural looking colors in clean water. And I rigged these on a Norton Jig head, 1/16 ounce. I go really light because it's easier to keep it out of the grass and work it above the grass without getting hung up. Because I don't use weedless swim bait hooks anymore, I get better hookups on the exposed jig head, but you just got to keep it above the grass, which means you got to work it kind of fast. And a lighter jig head works really good to do that. I throw all of those setups with 10-pound braid. I like Power Pro, but I also been using Beyond braid. It's been working pretty good for me, and it's a little bit cheaper. So when the redfish bite is finicky, you know, you see them following your lures, waking in behind it, but they're not committing, then I switch to the 4-inch Gulp Swimming Mullet. And that's my favorite color. The root beer and chartreuse, small profile. Sometimes when they're finicky, actually always when they're finicky, the smaller lures are the best bet. So, and I put that on the same jig head. Then for speckled trout, nothing has changed for me. I'm not gonna be changing anything different in the fall. I'll still be using a popping cork. I really like the 4 Horseman, and there's a bunch of other good corks on the market too. That's just what I've been using, along with the Marker 54 jerk shrimp. This is the backwards facing shrimp, and if you notice, the hook comes out backwards compared to all the other shrimp lures, or you know, compared to like 99% of them. And the pink one is my favorite. I used to throw the natural with a chartreuse tail, and I did pretty good with it, but then I had some buddies outfish me one day with the pink one, and I started throwing it and doing better with it. So I like the pink. These, they last a really long time. They got that real, you know, flexible plastic, and they already come pre-rigged, so all you got to do is put it under the cork. I am usually fishing 3 to 6 feet of water for speckled trout. So my leader under my cork is gonna be close to 2.5 feet. You know, that's a good average. And if you're, you know, if you really want to get down to them and you're fishing, you know, 4 or 5 feet of water, then put about a 3, maybe 4 foot leader under it, you know, and that'll work. But you got to give that, you know, that cork a good pop every 2 to 3 seconds. And if you're fishing a little bit deeper and they hear that cork, and if they are somewhat hungry, they'll go up to check it out, you know. So I kind of stay with about a 2.5 foot leader under the cork. I'm pretty much wide open, you know, for fishing trips. If y'all want to book a trip, my website is cleanfunfishing.com. Now we'll get into the tougher conditions, even when things are really, you know, really good. So with cooler weather comes fronts, which is a good thing, but the day of the front can be brutal, it can be dangerous, and it can be tough fishing. So I really like right before the front, or even a day before the front, and then about a day or so after the front, when things start to calm down. Those are the best days to go fishing in the fall and in the winter. Right now our water temperature is almost 90 degrees, which it probably has hit 90 in certain areas over here. So when our water temps start dropping in the 70s, that's when things are going to be really good. And even if it drops 5 degrees, let's just say, you know, at the end of September, if it drops 5 degrees, that's gonna be good. You got a, you know, cooler water going on. But when it's in the 70s, that's my all-time favorite. When you get into the 60s, the upper 60s and mid 60s, that's still pretty dang good. And then when you get into the 50s, you're now in wintertime. And then in the wintertime, I'm not throwing as many fast-moving baits. I'm fishing deeper channels, and I'm working soft plastics mostly on the bottom, and I'm using a heavier jig head, a 1/4 ounce, and I'm just slowly dragging and bumping that soft plastic on the bottom of a channel, because those fish get cold and they go down deep. But that won't happen until we get to about January, at least for us, you know, around Aransas Pass, Ingleside, you know, Port Aransas and all that. And of course your live bait is always a good option. I really like throwing artificial because you can cover more water than sitting bait on the bottom with a Carolina rig. But if you're in a cove and you're in good activity and you know you got some fish in there, then that Carolina rig works really good with cut bait or live bait. I will guide customers with artificial, but they would have to bring their own setups, because all of my setups for my customers are with the popping cork and the Marker 54 jerk shrimp, and then my other rods for them is a Carolina rig. So I don't have artificial rod and reels, but I will guide artificial if any of y'all want to do an artificial trip. The next good condition is always a moving tide. The moving tide it's very important when it's hot, but it's pretty much, you know, that's the thing. That's what you need. You need some moving water. And those slack tide days will be slower a lot of times, but it's not such a grind in the fall as it was in the summer. In the summer, you don't have any water moving and you don't have any wind and it's hot. Those are the slower, tougher days. So as long as you got a moving tide, even into the fall, then, you know, fishing is going to be really good. The areas that we will target and fish, it's going to be the same areas we've been fishing. It's just that there will be more fish in there and more active, and they will be more aggressive. So all the grass flats will get better and better. We've been fishing a lot of drop-offs in the summer, even though you can catch them in shallow in the summer. We've been doing, you know, better with speckled trout, you know, in about 4 to 6 feet of water. Those drop-offs will still be good for trout in the fall. But as we get into winter, that sand, if you got a sandy bottom, like some of the stuff we're fishing is a sandy bottom right now, it gets cold. That sand gets cold in the winter, and you want to look for your mud bottom. That mud, you know, it heats up quicker, and the shallow mud heats up quicker once we get into about January. But we got about 3 or 4 more months of some really good fishing coming up. I hope y'all get out there and get the lines tight. That didn't take long. It got the bait in it, so let's give it a shot. Yeah, he'll keep. Oh, you can check it if you're not sure. It's better to check it than to fish on credit. See how fast it happens when you make just a little move? Yeah. They're either there or they ain't. Might be a trout or a little rig.
I think it's a small trout.
Yeah, that's a good trout. He'll keep.
Ooh.
21.
Let's go.
Well, I always have these spots in mind.
Yeah.
You know, maybe based on where I've been catching them, or maybe where I didn't catch them. You know, leave it alone for a little bit. And we were heading that way to a good area, and I just seen all that bait activity. I said, well, we'll give it a shot, man. Let's move down again, y'all. It kind of turned off, and y'all getting hit by little fish.
Yeah.
Oh, a little red.